What is up, guys, and welcome to the 5.4 Immerseus Normal Mode Raid guide. As always in our normal guides, the abilities will be scrolling above my head, so after you watch the video through once, if you want to go through and pause it and look at different abilities or look at different things, go ahead and feel free to do that. The Immerseus fight is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot going on if you just kind of relax and take into account a Blizzard 101 openings fight. So what you really want to do is, Immerseus has two phases, okay? He has a phase where he's the big water elemental, and then he has a phase where he splits. Now, during his water elemental phase, which is the phase you started, you need to be aware of a couple things. Tanks, you need to make sure that you're facing him away from the raid. So what you're going to do is you're going to have the tanks, the tank or tanks, depending on how many tanks you're using. You can one or two tank this depending on how quickly you can burn down the boss. But you want to face them away from the raid, as there is a frontal cone ability that we don't want to get hit by. It will hurt the raid, and it does give them a stack, which sucks. The other thing that we need to know in phase 1 is there are swirl. Swirl will be going around the room. It'll look like the graphic on your computer will look like a little small swirly kind of traveling around the room. There's also the shot pools. You don't want to stand in the shot pools. You want to stay loosely spread out about 5 yards during this phase, as the shot pools will do damage. If you're closer than that, they will splash to other players. So make sure that you're at least 5 yards spread out, and that's really not a problem with just how enormous this boss room is. The other thing that you need to know is that once you get his energy bar, once you get his health down to 0, he will then split into phase 2. In phase 2, he goes back down the water and throws out all these puddles. There are two kinds of puddles. There are Shaw puddles, and then there are contaminated puddles. Now, the Shaw puddles can be DPS down and need to be ASAP. They don't have a lot of health, so they need to be DPS quickly. Your raid needs to be aware of being spread out and spreading out your DPS and your healers, because this room is enormous and there is things that both groups do have to do. The contaminated puddles are what the healers need to heal to full. Now, here's how the fight works. For everyone that reaches the boss, okay, he will do AoE damage, and it grows the more that reach the boss. So what you want to do is understand that as a healer, you want to be saving those cooldowns for as the puddles get back into the boss and as he emerges back up from the ground, because that will do quite a bit of damage to you, and it does ramp up the further on into the fight. So that's really the only healing mechanic that you do need to worry about. So for the first one, you can probably get away with popping cooldowns and maybe, maybe a rally or something like that. You should be more than fine. But just make sure that as you're killing the puddles, you're slowly moving into the middle of the room. Because what's going to happen is as soon as he comes back out, you spread back out and go to your places. But that way, as you're closing back in after you're killing the puddles, that way your healers, you're a little bit more grouped up for your healers. And remember, if we're dead, we can't DPS, and we can't tank. So make sure that we're helping our healers out, always going in towards the center, and you'll be more than fine to kill this boss. Again, after that, it's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat until the boss is dead. As you get into the fight more, you want your hybrid healers to start helping with the contaminated puddles and healing them back up. The shot puddles will kind of become less and less. The DPS, however, does need to understand that a little pro tip for you guys is, as he goes underneath, when he comes back out, there's a black puddle that comes out and then that flies around the room, and then there's like a clear or like a white puddle, pretty much. We kill the black ones, so you can actually see where the black ones are going to go before they even land. So you can make sure that your DPS, if there's a bunch of them going to a certain area, your DPS should be able to help call that out, and then that way you make sure that you're really getting them down as quick as you can. They can also be slowed, stunned, everything else, so make sure that you're using that to your benefit as well. We don't want to let them hit, and they will die rather quickly, so making sure that they're slowed and getting everything rolling on them is important. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, see you in the next one.